Hello, y'all. Let me get to the control console for this event. How do I even do that? Basic info. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this live control room. Oh, yay. Yeah. Oh, nice. Nice. Okay, I can look at my thing without having to actually hear the grating sound of my speech voice. Let me also put myself in voice chat on Discord. If you're not already on Discord, let me know and I will link you. Let me link people on my server. Look at me actually starting on time. Living right and eating right. Okay, well, it looks like there are no questions yet. So if there are still none in a bit, I will start looking at Stack Exchange questions, see if there's some new ones. Observers now and ask questions in voice. Oh, hello, Hayden. Oh, hello, Satan. Dang, people popping off in here. Okay, so I'm not gonna be able to hear y'all because right now I'm doing office hours where I answer y'all's questions, and there's like people on here and on YouTube and wherever else people want to ask questions. I'm having people ask general vocal questions in voice text chat, but y'all can also watch this on YouTube. I put the link in events if y'all want to see this on YouTube, see my ugly face. Not pity, not pity. Y'all got any questions? If y'all just are here to like chill and hang out, you can use some of the other voice channels if you don't have any voice questions. But from 7:30 to 8:30, I'm gonna be using this to answer voice questions. So when other people come in, make sure they can hear the answers to their questions. If y'all were just like trying to chill. Oh, and hello, Daniel Diamond. I think I said hi to the rest of y'all. Okay, which song is it? And give me the timestamp with the high note. Don't give me the name, link me. Okay, link me to the actual moment. Okay, thank you. Because it's hard if I gotta get out this keyboard and slave over a hot Google to try to find the exact moment that you're talking about. Because there's several high notes in her song, so it helps to know exactly which one you're talking about. I'm even hungry. I'm gonna finish all this salad. Stop eating all the time because I'm bored. Okay, nice. Thank you for linking the moment. So for those of you who are watching on YouTube, I'm answering a question on the Discord about this note from Ariana Grande's Dangerous Woman. Probably the belt. That's all right. Let me go into my vault so I can actually belt. Damn, I knew it was gonna be about Okay, so this is gonna be about. Let me go inside my vault, my soundproof vault, so I don't bother nobody. But yeah, that was definitely about. I think some of the challenge about doing stuff like that is that it's not just like, oh, an isolated belt by itself. It's like, ah, and then it's over. But it's like you have to hold these belts syllable after syllable. I feel like changing syllables on belts can be a little bit difficult. Look at me, I'm blue, da ba dee da ba da. Okay, so let's figure out what note that is first. I know Ariana Grande's highest recorded belt is B flat 5. At least I know of, both live and in studio. But this doesn't sound that high. So let me see what this belt be working with. Okay, one more second. Okay, this is a G5, so it's not the hardest ever. So if you're doing an M2, which is, some people call that head voice, some people call it falsetto, it's gonna be like, and that can be hard to do with control if you get stuck at what I call the mezzo block. So around like G5, A5, people either run out of range or they really start to clamp down. And it's loud, but doesn't sound very controlled. So like, feel like a dangerous woman, and like that's the only way it can come out. Even though like you can if once you have control of them too, it can come out like, feel like a dangerous woman. And like you can have that kind of level of variation with M2. But if you clamp around G5, A5, and you really start to squeeze for it, like, oh, this is super hard. M2 should never be something that you like squeeze for. However, she is using M1, and the challenges that comes with is getting past the D sharp 5 hump in belting. So when you do that note that high in M1, I consider that belting. And it's a different neighborhood of belting that can be kind of tricky. So again, doing that in a sort of powerful M2 would be like, and that is sort of trying to be somewhat powerful in M2. But as soon as I do M1, pray for my thrusty, you get sort of all hell breaks loose. In comparison. Sorry, that was awful. But I got some like mucus on my vocal cords right now. But that level of intensity to get what she's doing, you probably have to bring M1 up and not have extra mucus like I do. Yeah. You feel like you feel like you can't switch to head voice on demand. There are drills that I do for that, but those take a little while to go over because you have to find where you naturally transition and then just drill moving back and forth between M1 and M2 over and over. And that's what will make the transition more fluid. So be able to do that. A lot of people, when they first start learning to try to switch into M2, this mythology that if you switch and it's brain and it's not silent, like if I go like it's supposed to where like I smooth out the break and you don't hear the break as loudly, people say that's good form, whatever. But honestly, it makes it harder to find M2, which you're calling head voice right now. It makes it harder to find that. So you're kind of screwing yourself by not being able to hear it. So I would first start off with really trying to push on that break and milk the break for all it's worth. I'm not sure if I'm not getting any comments or if it's a matter of me not being able to see them from my control panel. I bet it's probably me not being able to see them from the control panel. Okay, so there's 2 people watching. Hello, 2 people that are watching. Please check in the oh hey hello. Do you have any voice questions? Let me know. I'll be checking them here and on the server. Are you on the server? I'm pretty sure you're on the server. Okay, so if we don't got no other questions, no, it's been going on. Where you been at? I'm going to answer a question from Stack Exchange if there are any new ones, because this is brought to you by Stack Exchange, where we can have academic community around the topic of the voice. So if you like the advice that I give you, you can get even more advice by getting this community started. So we can have people besides like classical voice teachers talking about voice, so we can have more perspectives. We can get SLP perspectives, speech language pathologists. We can get voice actors. We can get all kinds of other people, like medical people, ENT people, all helping us figure out voice. Why is E? Yes, behave. Why is E5 so hard? Because you really shouldn't be going for E5 belt until you feel really secure up to at least a C5, and that you can hit consistent D sharp 5s. Once you get past that D sharp 5 break, belting changes, and the glottal configuration isn't like the way belt was. No, the song is a G5, which is even higher than an E5. I might try to redeem myself on that, because my voice is just like gone right now. Oh my God, why are people not getting added to roles? Let's see if they're, yes, on vocal stuff. If not, I'm going to answer questions from Stack Exchange. If you post your questions to Stack Exchange, which I'm going to put in the voice text chat and in the YouTube comments. Oh my God. Thank you, Dakota. Oh my God, doing the work of God. If you ask questions on the Stack Exchange and vote for the questions that you feel like reflect your interests, and some of the questions that aren't getting as much love in the comments, I will arrange an event where I do a more private Q&A with y'all and give you more in-depth drills. Like you'll notice right now, I'm not actually including full out-and-out drills, because those take time. You have to sort of customize them to the person that's doing them. But if y'all get it together on Discord, on Stack Exchange, I will give you that premium stuff on Discord. Okay, so the laryngeal vibratory mechanisms, I think first you should read the article and then ask me questions about them. So link the article, laryngeal vibratory mechanisms. Oh God, why? I'm so mad. That is not what I asked for. Took me to laryngeal Malaysia. So laryngeal vibratory mechanisms. So basically what you know is registers, what you know is like head voice and chest voice. The science behind it is this. Oh. Okay, thank you. Yes, it's better if you read the article before asking questions about the LVMs. It's just like the question will just get answered over and over again. It's kind of annoying. And also it's good to get that out the way so our time can be spent helping you fully understand it rather than even just like telling you what it is from the jump. So if you know what kinds of questions you have about laryngeal vibratory mechanisms, the article doesn't take long to read. It's like it's pretty short. You can like skim it. My hair's so oily. Okay, well, no one got no questions. Let's see if we have any questions. Okay. Yes. What are the treatments available for the correction of puberphonia? Do they differ depending on the gender of the patient? I would say that clinical practice, more men that come with complaints of puberphonia, because I think that threatens their fragile masculinity so much more. So there definitely are, and I think there's a possibility of women having puberphonia because I think it's neurological most of the time. It's like a weird habit. So, in fact, I think Miss Chalet, if you look up Miss Chalet, her voice probably has what I would call puberphonia. Miss Chalet spelled like Michelle, but with like an apostrophe between the two L's. Look her up, listen to her sing, and then listen to her talk. The way she talks might be a form of puberphonia. So women do have it, but I think men get treated for it more often because I think it's more like clashing with your masculinity to have it. But do the treatment things differ? They might clinically, it might differ how you treat men and women with puberphonia, but even if it does, I don't think it should, because there is not a huge difference between the vocal tracts of men and women. I mean, there is some, but it's really not that huge like people try to make it. And what was the other thing I was going to say? And they would do best from like a neurological intervention rather than some super physical surgical corrective, very much tailored to the constraints of your anatomy intervention. It's more like both men and women have M1 and M2. So if you have the puberphonia subtype, which for those of you who don't know a lot about puberphonia is like when you have an abnormally like high and squeaky voice that just doesn't even sound like regular human. Sounds like a cartoon character or something. And there's several forms of it, but the treatment, I think, is usually behavioral. So it should be the same for the most part for men and women. It should be. It might not be because people like to pretend that gender rules everything, but it really doesn't. The treatments are available for puberphonia. I can eventually link a video if I can find it. This is like a couple Indian SLPs or something that talk about, that show some before and afters of people with puberphonia, and they did like interventions, and then they like sounded more normal. There's a lot of like interesting things happening with SLP in India. So that's an answer to Stack Exchange question. Thank you, Dakota. Okay, so Danny asks, I want to ask why it is, or why is it when I go higher, my throat tightens no matter how hard I try, but I feel like I'm repeating Satan's question. Yeah, I think some of that is you have to relearn how to hit high notes. Especially if it's M2, if you are straining no matter what on these high notes, especially A5 and below, you're probably, or even if you get a little bit past A5, if you're always hitting like, and that's your default M2, you should really relearn how to hit those notes from scratch. And there's drills for that. I'm not gonna teach you, but I have to charge. So it's really about relearning how you hit them and hitting them in more of like a delicate fragile kind of way that relies on air pressure and sort of nuanced coordination, rather than I'm going to squeeze and apply all this extra pressure in order to get my vocal cords like tight enough to vibrate at this high frequency. Rather than do that, if you change the configuration of your vocal folds, which happens around C5 and happens again around like G5, A5, if you accept that change in coordination and work with it, it shouldn't be like a strain to go up to like D6, which is. So that, even with my messed up voice, is not incredibly difficult because M2 is just like a lot easier. And people think like hard, I mean, high means hard. So even if it's an M2, which is supposed to be a pretty easy as in easygoing configuration, people will still try to like squeeze every last drop out of it. So I'd recommend staying posted on the server and see if any drills come your way about how to lighten up in M2. The one that's easiest to give you for free would be doing semi-occluded vocal tract exercises, SFET exercises. The most common ones that I like are lip bubbles. So that's like in phonetics, that's called the bilabial trill. And you have the rolled R or apical trill. And then you have the uvular trill or gargle. If you can do any of those while you try to hit the high notes and really lean into making that trill as loud and fast as possible, really push with air to make that trill nice and loud and fast, that increases your likelihood of being able to avoid strain. Okay, what causes a brassy voice to be brassy? Let's see if there's any YouTube questions first. Okay, nope. Brassy voice to be brassy. I think I went over this the last time. I don't know if you mean like, how do you do brassy? What makes brassy happen? Dang, Dakota just asked a really good question for someone that was just here. Thank you, Dakota, for like manning this shit the fuck down. Ooh, God, I need to stop cursing so much. I'm never gonna get a real job. Okay. Wait, where on YouTube? Oh, heck. Hello, Sam. Long time no see. What config does John Pinto using for the way he sounds? It helps if you can, while I answer other questions, Sam, if you can link me an example of what you want me to describe, like of what technique, because like different singers do different things at different times. So I like the way he sings one line won't necessarily be the same way as the way he sings every other. So I want to hear specifically what you're referencing. So get that while I answer the other questions. So brassy voice, what causes it? In terms of what physiologically creates the brassy sound is twang plus activation of the back of the tongue. I'm just gonna leave it at that because I don't know exactly how you knows that it moves. I think it bunches in the very, very back, like of your tongue when you make an R, it bunches and it maybe lifts. I'm not entirely sure. I need more data. But brassy, for those of you who are not familiar, sounds like this. And it's used a lot in soul music. So brassy, it's like if you've heard Amy Winehouse, you've heard brassy. So brassy comes about in these communities, I think, because in addition to having certain accents, language communities like different countries or different ethnicities that share like common language features, like Black people are a certain community that we have certain language features. If you have those language features in common, then you're not only learning how to pronounce stuff differently, but sometimes you learn from the language community that you're in how to use your voice differently, even in the context of talk. Like a lot of people that are brassy and brought up in the sort of Black subcommunity, especially in the South, they're just like baseline brass. talk, like sound in their voice, and they probably like pick it up because other people know. Like I think there is something to be said for I'm gonna stop doing breath while I talk. I think there's something to be said for like different people have different just idiosyncrasies about how their voice sounds, but it's a lot of people that really just pick up how they sound from whatever group they came up speaking with. Their voice will also mimic that. So that's okay. How does one anchoring a real thing? Yes. Yes. Just like there probably was like a Saint Nick or Santa Claus or whoever that eventually became Santa Claus. Like that probably was based off of a real saint, if I even am on my shit. But Santa Claus is obviously not real. Oh my God. I'm destroying hopes and dreams right now. But yeah, so it started off as something real, but then became something that's not. That's my feeling about anchoring. A lot of people used to just talk about any damn thing. But anchoring, I think the definition that makes more sense to use in my book is just the use of muscles that aren't directly implicated. So if I breathe, I need to use my diaphragm. Every other muscle I use is an accessory muscle. And I'm using those accessory muscles properly to help make my breathing quote unquote better. But God, I just hate when people only want to talk about breathing. Breathing is so overrated. You will refer to that probably as anchoring when you're using those accessory muscles in a way that really helps you. But the reason why they're talking about anchoring kind of frustrates me is that don't fix it if it ain't broke. And there's a lot of ways to misuse accessory muscles. So in getting people to try to like anchor, they take like perfectly good breathing and now make it so like the only way I can breathe is like this to sing or whatever. They just do something extra and dumb. How does one perform aspirate rasp? Get on my level. How does one perform aspirate rasp? Aspirate rasp is this kind of sound. So the way I teach that is first learning breathiness and then learning false fold constriction and combining both. Excuse me. So breathiness is obviously like learning to be like this, learning to allow air to pass through your vocal folds without being vibrated. So sort of this relaxation of the tensor muscles of your vocal folds, and then combining on another level, being able to do like old man sounding aspirate, false fold constriction. So being able to really feel the constriction of your false folds and then combining both of those together gives you this. So that's like very extreme aspirate rasp, but it can be parlayed into stuff that's like more like, oh yeah. It's used a lot in like that and fry rasp are used a lot in modern gospel. So fry rasp is like, oh yeah. Yes. Okay. You are welcome for helping with belting. Some trans guys seem to lose their ability in M2 after testosterone due to the vocal folds having enough space to grow in. How is it possible to get it back for everyone? So I need more data on people trying to pre-T range after testosterone, but it's very possible, and I wish my friend Robin were here to shed light on that, because he probably like a year or so back regained some of his pre-T range. So, and I've seen it happen in other cases. It really can be done, but there's a sort of hump that you have to get over, because as Dakota astutely alluded to, when you take T after puberty, your vocal folds grow, but the space inside your larynx doesn't grow. That's already fused and set. You can't grow it unless you do surgery or something. So you have larger vocal folds, but you don't have larger space to hold those vocal folds in. So they become sort of oversized feeling. and it's hard to coordinate them together. And switching mechanisms is about coordinating your vocal folds together. So thank you, Dakota. Dang, you like coming down. You raining down on the kingdom. So yeah, how is it possible to get it back for everyone? Is in the dot, everyone isn't affected the same way by T. It's whenever you have like a vocal physiology, like something about the morphology of your vocal folds changes. Something about the nature of that ligamentous tissue on top of your vocal folds changes, whether it's like being thickened by T, or whether you have a node, or whether you have a polyp, or whether you have a cyst. Figuring out how to address those really involves a lot of listening to sort of cues your voice might give you in terms of like, why are your M2 notes failing? So let me come with like a for instance thing. So I'm actually working with a transmasculine singer right now, and he doesn't have any M2 access. And when he goes for it, he gets this sort of like and I think in that case, when you get that kind of like really light fry with these voiceless pauses, so when you get with those voiceless pauses, I think that might involve needing to pull the vocal folds back a little bit so they're not so close that they're hampering vibration. So if you can see my hands, like when they come together like this, they might like dampen each other. So that's one potential thing. But it's like kind of playing forensics, and to fix that, you might do like a trill or something. To fix that, there's all kinds of different approaches depending on what you think the underlying problem is, because it's not only an issue of like your vocal folds are large. It's like, how much larger are they? How much space do you have inside your larynx? What are you doing with your new large vocal folds? Keeping those things in mind, I think you can eventually get a lot of trans guys to still get into M2. I like to hold out hope for some reason. I normally hate hope. Like, what is it with trans voice and me and having hope? But I like to hold out hope that there's nothing inherently barring you from finding your M2 again after doing a significant amount of testosterone. Yeah, hopefully that helps somebody. The article can go as high, I mean, the article you can go as high as D#6. Yeah, demonstrate that in a second if after I answer Sam's question. Thank you, Dakota. You are saving my life. Beautiful, yeah. Unwatch. Be nice if you linked it with the timestamp. Oh, thank you, Dakota, for making it clickable. Wow, you are slaying the girls today.
April 28th, come to College Park for the 20th Annual Maryland Day at the University of Maryland. Enjoy a celebration of...
Okay. 240 onwards. Yeah, that was M1, and he even jumped to F5, which is the money note belt extension, which is very rare for AMABs or just guys in general or humans to get your belts up there. He kind of really constricts and lightens his belt sound up there, which I think some of that is like a survival mechanism. What about mouth shapes and larynx height? I'd say his larynx height goes high, and that is not necessarily strain. All y'all don't try it. It's not necessarily strain, but it is like it does very much feminize his sound. So do I have any voice left? Probably not. Let's see if I have enough voice left to do this. For some reason, like I took hella antihistamines because I'm having stuff and they dry me out. I've not been drinking water because I'm irresponsible and I make horrible life decisions. But so never. God. So that's me sort of default, but then doing it with the larynx slit up and kind of lightened as you get to the very top of that. So like the never he stays normal, but then when you get to the D sharp 5, he changes into this sort of I'm not sure about mouth shape. Let me listen for mouth shape. But he changes into like a higher larynx and a lighter configuration vocal fold wise. I think his lips pull back against his teeth, which does shorten the vocal tract a little bit. And I think that's out of just like straining. Not straining in a bad way, but it's like out of high effort. Because they're just gonna belt a nice relaxed F. No, doesn't happen. Like nice relaxed belts are a lie. You can feel like in control of the belt, but it's never relaxing. So I'm gonna do it one more time, but I'm gonna switch up the coordination when I get after that C5. I'm gonna switch it to actually let me do the heavy one again. First point, I'll do a light one. Never enough. So that's like what's it, a more full one with like a lower larynx and more vocal fold engagement. But I'm gonna sort of attenuate the belt by compressing and dampening everything and lifting my larynx up. And that will make the belt more feminine, sort of not strained sounding, but restrained sounding, and more feminine. Did I already say that? Yeah. Never enough. Okay, so that's normal. Then like never enough. Like like I sort of switched when I went to the D sharp 5. Hopefully I got that. It's like playing like Twister with yourself, trying to switch the coordinations back and forth to do examples. It's hard. Never enough full. Never enough. Not as full. And then just for a bonus, let's see if I can do that. Do that heavy and light on the whole thing. But God is trying to tell me no. Never enough. Oh Jesus! If I held that for 2 seconds longer, that would have became like for 2 milliseconds longer, that would have became completely fry. And then never enough. And that was probably like excessively compressed or whatever, but that's the best y'all gonna get. And it actually was a little bit easier to hold the second one because I think lifting your larynx height helps your vocal folds come together a little bit more easily. You don't have to do like much active work to compress the vocal folds so they don't get like blown apart by all that air pressure. Not blown apart like bomb, blown apart like air wedges them into M2. Okay. Dakota, you are killing it today. Thank you. Okay. Pin a message to this channel. Thank you. Okay. M1 can go as high as D sharp 6. Yes, I think it can. It can go at least as high as D sharp 6. Let me demonstrate real quick. So, M, if you are watching, let me prove to you that D4. I can't do D sharp 4 to D sharp 5 because I don't fucking D sharp 4 D5. I'm gonna do D4 because I've like D4 to D5, and I'll do D5 to D6. So if I go from D4 to D5, I can slide up continuously without experiencing a passaggio. I can slide up continuously and loudly without experiencing passaggio, and then I can experience a passaggio on the D5, and that'll prove that that D5 is M1. So that is D5. Oh crap, I forgot to pop. Do you hear that release? That release is switching from M1 to M2. That's a configuration change between mechanisms. So I'm just like rending my thrusty raw for y'all. Okay, so D4 to D5, that's all M1. Do we agree? Does that sound like M1 to you? Where you answering? You answering? Yes. Okay, awesome. Thank you. So, so now that you know that D4 to D5 is M1, let's do D5 to D6. No, let's do D4 to D5 to D6. So you don't hear a pop there. You hear a mechanism. Yeah, I know. I really do need to. Thank you. I need to take sips of water. Thank you so much. But we can agree that D5 is M1. Definitely agree that D4 is M1. So M1 is conserved all the way up. You might hear like a slight gear shift, but you're not, or pseudo passagio between D5 and D6, but you won't hear that break if I slide up into that sound. But I can slide up to an intense sound in M2 on the D6 that is very intense but still breaks. So so that was M. No! Apparently the connection dropped when I demonstrated. Question at a time. One question at a time. Let other people other questions. Boy, yes, you can get a smoky tongue without smoking. What are you on? What are you smoking to think that is a thing? Okay. Okay, I heard enough to sell you on the D5. I mean the D6. So then let me do D sharp 5 to D sharp 6. Oh Jesus. So that really not it's not as hard as I'm making it look. I'm just dry as hell. Yeah, so that is D sharp 5 to D sharp 6. So can you get smoking tongue without smoking? Hell yes. How is it possible that you will be able to be breathy with a high close quotient? So my theory about, not theory, but my understanding of close quotient is that close quotient means, I feel like it should be almost called like close quotient. When the vocal folds get the closest that they get during the glottal cycle, that I count as a close quotient. So if you have a wedge between your vocal folds, it doesn't matter how much they like spend together. If they are abducted, abducted, pulled apart enough for air to come through, the air will come through even if the vocal folds are vibrating near it. If they're not completely closing off, there's space for the air to come out. So you can have a higher close quotient and you can feel the buzzy weight of your vocal folds. You can feel them sort of like come together more and exert their weight. And you can feel maybe a bit more conduction because the sounds can still like, some of it's lost on air, but some of it can come together. And you can be like, so like a high close quotient breathiness would be like a versus a higher open quotient breathiness would be like Hopefully you heard the difference. Did you hear the difference? Okay. How low can the average AFAB go? AFAB, for those of y'all that don't know, is assigned female at burn. Assigned female at burn, y'all. My burn gender. Okay. So assigned female at burn. Oh, never mind. Thank you, Dakota, for answering that in the comments. So how low can the average AFAB go? I find that most post-puberty AFABs stop somewhere or experience difficulties somewhere around F3. Ones that really go low and try to go low, it's like the same as like my cap before I really started training my low notes. Well, this is my like low M1 cap. I was able to use M0 for a minute, and mistakenly I learned how to use M0 way too well before learning the rest of the bottom of M1. I just assumed that anything below C3 was gonna have to be like M0, which people commonly call fry, which is an offense against God, but that's for another time. So, C3 is like usually the canonical low of where a lot of AFABs go. And if they really push it, if they have a long career and they're really pushing their low notes and they have enough like concerts that they can start really experimenting with their voice and expanding, I find they often go to like A2. and that's like the absolute low that you can expect any reasonable number of AFABs that are professional singers to have gone. But it is possible for them to go lower. There are plenty that, like Mariah Carey's gone down to like at least an E2 and M1. So, okay. So, yeah, that's an E2 max. I think and that starts to be like hard for both AMABs and AFABs. But I need more AFABs that are willing to bass wank. Assigned tenor at City College. I love you, M. Okay, let me check and make sure there's no questions on YouTube. Okay. How can one practice strengthening, improving the lower range of their M2, like say below A4 down around my break area, or even just M2 in general? And how might one go about finding M3 and or the transition of M2 into it? Yes, M. Oh my God, M with the good questions. Okay, so assigned tenor. I think it should be like CATACC, like, because people say like instead of KFAB and KMAB, which I think is like coercively assigned. So it's like, I did not choose this. They emphasize that. My thoughts are neither here nor there about that, but I think for Fach, like tenor and alto bass, you can say that you were coerced into thinking that you're a tenor. If you don't want to be a tenor, you don't have to tenor, because a lot of times tenors is just like you're high in A map, and we like countertenor. Oh no, forget about it if you're a countertenor, because like men can be mezzos, men can be sopranos, A maps can be those things as well. And women in AFABs can be holy God. Women in AFABs can be, what are the low ones? Bass and baritone. Oh God, I'm sorry. Okay, so how might one might practice strengthening, improving the lower range of their M2? Yeah, I'd say you need it down to maybe like C4 max. I really just find not hella need for M2 down there. Like, unless you want the most subtle moment of God, like you don't need to really thin out that much down there, because like M1 has so much control and you can do all kinds of things with M1 down that low. So I see no reason to necessarily bring M2 that much further down. But if it doesn't go below A4, that can be a little bit of a challenge. So to bring it down, I try like yawn sighing. Actually, it's good that you mentioned that. A yawn sigh can be good for and sliding down really low in M2. How can you practice M in general? Figure out your passaggio. Figure out what your M2 needs are. A lot of people don't have enough chord closure in M2. So they default to sounding like this in their M2, and you want to sound like more if you want to. How might one go about finding M3 and the transition of M2 into it? Let me know when you find your M2 to M3, because I still struggle with that. I can do M1 to M3 pretty well, but my M2 to M3, I neglect that transition. Let's see if I can do one. Actually, I don't have much M3 right now, so let's see if I can have M3. Holy God. God does love me. Okay, so switching from B5 to F sharp 6. Whoa. Flageolet? I did not do that on purpose. Oh no, I superheaded. I think I superheaded. Shit! Okay, sorry, let me answer your question. Okay. Let me try to actually do the break. Yeah, the passaggio for me is not very neat, because when I get up that high in M2, that coordination, for whatever reason, to me, I could pontificate about it a little bit, but that coordination past A5 for me just does not feel as flexible break-wise. It's harder to break from M1 into, like, I can do it, but it's hard, like it's a sort of niche configuration that's hard to switch. It probably doesn't have as much like morphology conserved with other mechanisms. So there's like probably nuances of that mechanism that inside of M2 that behave differently than most other mechanisms. So for whatever reason, that switch is hard. But I can do like, let's say, like that is easy. That switch from M2 to M3 is easier for me to do down low. So that's just my personal perspective on that switch. But finding M3 itself, there's several things for that. I have breathy induction. Stay tuned. There'll be a module in M3 eventually if you want one sooner rather than later. Get people excited for these modules so I can actually have enough enrollment to actually make it worth it to do a module. Because I'm not going to do like a module for one person. Everyone's like, oh, I wanted to learn that thing too. Do a module for me as well. But I'm not going to actually try to attend when you say the module is, because I want everything on my own schedule, but I don't want to pay you. Like make sure I have enough attendees to really justify doing it. And if you get like enough of a cohort, and I'll help you with that if need be, I'll make announcements and stuff. We will do the M3, but don't work too much on M3 until your M2 is really polished off. Like you should have a solid C6 before working on M3, because it will cannibalize your M2. Office hours, how can I get smoky tone without smoking? Boy, you asked that question already. You smoking that good. Okay, office hours, how low can the average AFAB go? And is there a limit? Oh no, you're condensing all your questions. Never, I already answered like your questions at that point. Can a bass coloratura train coloratura? Yeah, why not? I don't know what exactly controls vocal agility. I think a lot of it is neurological and conceptual, being able to conceive of all these notes and do them accurately in a nice like dash. But I'm trying to think of like basses with good runs, or people with low voices with good runs. I can go like really low, but also have good runs. Like Jasmine Sullivan for an AFAB has a pretty low range, but she's killing with the runs. In fact, Layla Hathaway, yeah, all these girls with good low ranges, they have good runs. Beyonce's voice is naturally low for an AFAB. So no, I reject that conspiracy that doing runs requires smaller vocal folds or something. Like it might help a little bit because the pitch is controlled in part by tilt and tension on the vocal folds. So if you have less vocal folds, you need to pull them less in order to get different pitches, you get changes in pitches. So maybe it's that, but honestly, I really think a lot of it is mechanical. Soprano birth here. How do I build vocal agility while belting? Get comfortable with belt. If you want to improve something, get super comfortable with it, and then like really try to look at it. What I do when I really like have a run that I want to do in some belt, I do what I call scouting, and I scout out the run in M2. And then if you do like carry lead the way riff, I would do that in M2 first. So like, whoa, god dang, that's breaking. Or something like that. So I would do that like a bunch of times, and then like once I'm conceptualizing the run and that part is on autopilot, then I can focus on dragging belt. They're like, or whatever it is. I don't know. I'm bad. I have a bad attention span. Office hours. Okay, let me check YouTube real quick. Scott Hoying from Pentatonics. Yes, I am Scott Hoying from Pentatonics. How can I get that polished M2 C6 you suggested working towards before M3? I can squeak C6, but I don't usually do so because I can tell when I'm straining where I shouldn't be, so I back off. Okay, so a little bit of strain will not up your life forever. Breathy induction, I think, is the best. If you get like a small squeak, that is actually something that's easier to build off of than this like loud scream on a G5 or A5. So if I'm like, and that's like the only way I can M2 on a G5, that actually sets me up for more difficulty and struggle and strife. Oh my God. Struggle and strife. I was just thinking about my life and how it's full of strife. Oh my God. Tomorrow is going to be the longest day ever. Struggle and strife. So G5, if you sound like that on a G5, that is a lot worse setup than if you sound like that was M2, but it's like so thin and struggly, it sounds almost like M3. So if you sound like that, that can be built up. That is a lot more flexible and sustainable and reproducible to be able to keep hitting that note like that. Okay, we winding down. We coming to the last questions. Hello, Synergy. Do you have any questions? Put them in voice text chat, or you can put them on the YouTube. Why do SOVTs work? So SOVTs stand for semi-occluded vocal tracts. That means that you have something that blocks air as it goes out the mouth and out the nose while you are singing or making a note. And because like occlusion is block off, and semi is like it kind of blocks off, but air can still go through it. So you have to sort of it makes you push more air, more unvibrated air. In order to push that more unvibrated air, you need to let your vocal folds be lax enough to let that air through. So that's my theory about how semi-occluded vocal tract exercises work. But it is possible to even strain your way through an SLVT. So you really have to let the SLVT do the job for you. My favorite SLVTs are the trills. So the bilabial is best, then apical, which is bilabial's lip bubble, apical's rolled R, and the gargle or uvular trill. And the reason why I like those trills the most, why I like those SLVTs the most, is because you don't get the sound unless you, well, there's a more direct, I'm trying to think of a way to phrase this, but there's a more direct pressure for you to change the way you articulate your vocal folds so that they have more space between each other in order to make the trill happen. When I put a straw in your mouth, that doesn't necessarily make you aim air out of that straw. You have to think about that. But in order to do the trill, it's like if you don't push air, like 8, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get the trill. So it's sort of trills as SLVTs force you into what I think the purpose of SLVTs are in the first place. And also plug. There's a good question about that on Stack Exchange. Stay posted on the Stack Exchange for answers to questions about how SLVTs can actually help prevent and maybe even reverse vocal damage. Future. Let's see if there's any questions on YouTube. Yeah. So Ed asked, what's the difference between how vocal folds come together, how much of them come together, and CQ, closed quotient, as how often the vocal folds are close to each other, not necessarily fully closed, but they're at their maximum point of closeness or somewhere around there during the cycle. Okay, office hours. What do you think about there being a mix 0 when M0 sounds similar to M1? Maybe. Mix is a concept I developed. Like we can do that, and I think that's worth looking at it. I think that's a very valid concept that you're pointing out, and I think we should definitely explore it. So thank you for bringing that up. But the only reason why I'm not jumping to call anything mix is because mix is a term that exists and refers to what we refer to more scientifically. It's like mix 1, mix 2, and then like quote unquote like the soprano extension of belting having mixy features. So because there's no mythology right now existing around this magical mix where M0 becomes part of M1 or whatever, I decided whether or not I would want to use that terminology for something where it's not already being used. This mix, it's an illusion. So yeah, to actually makes sense. Oh, never mind. Your next sentence addresses that. So that makes sense that M0, M1, they sound the same around that D2. So your observations are completely on point, and that's why the lower end of bass is D2, because I think that's honestly where Fry or M0, don't call it Fry, picks up for a lot of people. Let's see if there's questions on the YouTube. Do you have any thing I could play real quickly and sing to sign off of this? No. No, I'm not taking requests if that's someone trying to type a request for me to sing. I don't know how to play but 3 songs. At least I can sing too. Oh, I think I'll stall and wait for the last questions. I'm in honor of the release of Janelle Monáe's new album. I'm going to try to play one of my favorite Janelle Monáe songs that she does with a big boy called Be Still. Let's see if I can remember. Be still, young heart, never will fall apart. Be wise, my dear, you must learn to just be still until you really, really know. Show me your right, shine your light, wonder will I know. Be still, young heart, never will you fall apart. Be wise, my dear, you must learn to just be still until you really, really know. Okay, is there any question? It's beautiful on the type 2. Wait, oh, they actually have officiated these terms, or has the field officiated these terms of the types? Are those our terms? Dakota low-key does engineer some of the best terminology with the mix 1, mix 2. I've been saying mix 1 and mix 2, but I wasn't necessarily referencing the mechanisms with that. But mix 1 and mix 2 referencing the mechanisms is a good idea. A little bit. Those are our terms. Yeah. I like it. It's type 1, type 2 diabetes. I feel so official. We should do an article on pubophonia. Because the high larynx is not dangerous, but there is a risk factor with anything in voice. There's a risk factor with talking. There's a risk factor with breathing. So if you don't do those things correctly, yes, you can hurt yourself. And lifting your larynx can compress the vocal folds just a teeny weeny smidge bit. But any tips on femme singing? So use femme voice toolkit and do it more if you don't want to be a hyper femme, if you don't want to be someone that sounds very dainty, which is totally fine. Not all women have to sound dainty. But if you don't want to hyper femme, you should femme more when you sing. Femme more, just because singing isn't just about this is my natural biology, but it's also about stylistic differences in how men are expected to sing and how women are expected to sing. And some of that is more femme. Both guys and girls femme more when they sing. Guys in pop, or at least tend to sing with higher larynxes than they do when they talk. And just higher open quotient, everybody femmes. So you should double femme when you go to sing. And what's at the tip? Oh, mechanisms. Pay attention to the way women in pop use mechanisms, because women and men tend to use mechanisms differently in pop. Men use these sort of like head voice M2 as their power notes. So they'll be like, oh, woo! Or they'll do like Adam Levine, like like type of stuff, or like Prince, ow! Like that kind of stuff. They'll be more aggressive with M2. Oh my god. I've not heard as many women do it, and I think that's why singers like Whitney Houston were really celebrated, because in a field where women don't necessarily do these like pop music, when women weren't coming with the woo, Whitney Houston gave you those woos, like loving you, and she like gave you that really rich quasi operatic M2 that not a lot of women were giving in the game. But that also points back to, in order to sound like a standard woman in the game, usually use M2 as a cherry on top. You don't use it as the actual like meat of a climax or of a moment. Like you use it and you use like a light belty sounding mix in M2 to sound like, okay, these notes are just part of my regular voice. Like I did a lot of that in the Janelle Monáe thing I was just doing, like. This still young heart, never will you fall apart. Be what's my day, you must learn to just be still until you really know. Like you don't hear any pops, you don't hear any breaks. I'm flawless. So it's hard. You want it to be a very continuous switch back and forth between them. M2, but if I instead took all those M2 moments and made them very remarkable, it'd be like, be still, young heart, never will you fall apart. Be wise, my dear, you must learn to just be still. So like doing that kind of, oh, M2 is work, and I have like my larynx lowers and I get really thin. That M2 is work kind of approach tends to masculinize your voice. Or even if I do like some powerful stuff. Yeah, I like fem low notes. I love me some fem low notes. Okay, well, I think that is it for this weekend. What weekend? It's not the weekend. Well, I don't know if people count Fridays as the weekend. Don't you come with no last minute question. Don't you come. You had your chance. I see you trying to ask this last minute question. I'm gonna go inspirational quotes. Don't be like me when you grow up. Bye.